Hello guys, this is Paul McWhorter with TopTechBoy.com, and we are here today with lesson number 9 in our incredible new tutorial series where you are learning artificial intelligence on the NVIDIA Jetson Xavier NX. I will need you to pour yourself a nice enormous mug of iced coffee. And I will need you to get out your Jetson Xavier NX gear. As you're getting your gear out, as always, I want to give a shout out to you guys who are helping me out over at Patreon. It is your encouragement and your support that keeps this great content coming. You guys that are not helping out yet, take a look down in the description. There is a link over to my Patreon account. Think about hopping on over there and hooking a brother up. But enough of this shameless self-promotion. Let's jump in and talk about what we are going to learn today. We are going to be looking at the solution to the homework assignment that I gave you in lesson number 8. And if I remember correctly, and I think I do, it was to track this pin using your dual cameras. So you're going to fire off 2 cameras. You're going to have those cameras looking for a blue pin. Now what I said was in the homework you don't have to run the servos. It's just find the pin, have each camera find the pin and draw a box around it, okay? Because you don't want to bite off too much. The first thing is let's figure out where it is and let's draw a box around it. After we draw a box around it, coming up in the future we can then turn the servos back on because we know that we are the boss of those servos. We do know that in fact. All right, so let's see here. I believe we're ready to get going. So let's come over here, open up a Visual Studio Code. I still like the gray. Haven't gotten feedback from you guys yet, but I do in fact kind of think that I'm starting to really like the higher contrast of this dark background. But I realize that it remains a most controversial issue. I will get out of your way and I'm going to open up the File Explorer view and we are going to come in. We're working in OpenCV folder. I'm going to add a new file, and that new file, it looks like we are going to be OpenCV dash. It looks like we're on 5, and then we're going to find blue pin dot py. The .py is important. Okay, the .py is important. Now, so that you can see better, I will close up the File Explorer. And we're going to start where we left off last week. And so if you did not save your codes, you can go to the most excellent www.toptechboy.com. And you're going to look at lesson number 8, search with the little happy green search icon. Search for Jetson Xavier NX Lesson 8. Come down here. And if you scroll down, you will find the code from last week. We will click on the little 2 pages, right mouse click and copy. And then we are going to come over here and we are going to paste that code. All right. Now, first thing I want to do is kind of like turn those servos off, and I'm going to leave the servo code in there, but I'm just going to comment it out because then later when we want to use it again we can activate it. But I don't want to be trying to find a blue pin and manage the servos at the same time. So right now let's just see if we can find the pin and box it. And those of you who have been playing along at home on the Jetson Nano series of lessons, you've already done this, so it should kind of be familiar. If this lesson starts just leaving you in the dust, you might go back and check out some of those OpenCV tracking programs that I did in my Jetson Nano series of lessons. But enough of this rambling. Let's come over here. I'm not going to load the library because I'm not going to be using the servo, so I'm going to shut that off. I'm not going to load the servo kit. And similarly, I am not going to create the servos. All right. And then I am not going to be doing all of this pan tilt nonsense. So I will edit and I will comment out that code. Toggle line comment. All right, so I'm just taking out the servo stuff. And you can see this is a bunch of servo stuff here. And so we are going to comment that out. And then this looks like good old-fashioned run the camera stuff, so we'll keep that. Then here we are firing up 2 cameras. I like that a lot. Then we are grabbing 2 frames. I like that a lot. And then we are creating a composite frame. That looks good. We are, looks like that we are doing a calculation here. This stuff is calculating the frames per second. And then I display all that in a window. That all looks good. And then I show things. Now when I come down here, what I am doing, it looks like what I am doing is I am activating those servos here. So all of this stuff, kit servo, all of that we are going to comment out because we don't want those servos running. So we are going to toggle line comment. All right, so I think we've turned off the servos there. And then let's just see what I'm showing. I'm showing combo cam, which is frame 3. And then frame 3 is the horizontally stacked frame. So if I turn this on, I should be operating my 2 cameras, right? I should just be operating my 2 cameras and they should show in one window. I am very confident. You guys remember boom. Okay, that was really not boom worthy because I just sort of copied code that we developed last week. You remember last week I went through that whole lesson without the program crashing one time. Who is the master of this stuff? Well, pride comes before the fall, so I better get humble here because this is kind of a tricky lesson that we're going to have today. Also, I'm going to take out this print statement where I'm printing frames per second. I am just going to eliminate that because we are putting it on that window, so I will get rid of that line of code. Does this make sense? Are you guys able to follow along with me as I'm just commenting this stuff out, or am I going too fast? I hope that I am not going too fast. I hope that you're able to follow along with me. Okay, now what we want to do is, and there's kind of 2 different ways you could think about doing this. You could create the composite image, and then you could look for a blue pin anywhere in that composite image, and since it's 2 different cameras, there would be 2 blue pins, and you could find it on the composite image. It's tempting to do it that way because it would be a lot easier, but then when we're going to end up later with one camera trying to track a blue pin and another camera trying to track a red pin, we better keep those 2 cameras kind of separate, and we better be doing our image recognition and our artificial intelligence on this frame, and we better be doing it on this frame, and then at the end combine them. I don't want to be doing things on the composite image because I want one image tied to one camera, tied to one set of servos. And I think that if you go down that other path, you might end up in a path that becomes very, very difficult later on, if that makes sense. All right, so if we're going to track this pin, what's the easiest way to track it on? The easiest, well, we could go in and we could develop a deep neural network from scratch, and we could do machine learning and train it to recognize the pin, or we could just track on this particular shade of blue. For the sake of expediency today, I think I will track on the color blue. So if I'm going to do that, I've got to be able to dial in that color. And so what I'm going to need is I'm going to need to create some track bars. Okay, I'm going to need to create some track bars. So I think I will come down here. And what I am going to need to do is I'm going to need to create a window, cv2.named window. All right. And what am I going to name the window? I'm going to name it track bars. Track bars. Okay, so now I've got a window called track bars, and now I'm going to put it where I want it. cv2.move window. Move window. That looks good. And which window do I want to move? I want to move track bars. And then where do I want to move it? I want to move it to kind of like 1320. So I kind of want to move it over to the right of the screen, out of the way, so it's not on top of the windows that we're going to be looking at. So I think about 1320 and 0 would put that track bar where I want it. And now What do we track on? We're going to change the image from blue, green, red to hue, saturation, and value. And so what I've got to do is I've got to create a mask that just looks for a range of hue that's associated with this blue, a range of saturation that is associated with this blue, and a range of value associated with this color. If you don't understand this and are completely lost, go look at my HSV and my other earlier Jetson Nano series on this. But you guys that went through that should recognize this. We're going to track. It's easiest to track on hue, saturation, and value. And so I've got to create a mask that is within certain limits. The reason we use a track bar is we can watch the screen as we hold the pen up, and we can adjust those track bars until we dial in on that. Or you can just do trial and error, and I will see you in about 3 weeks if you try to do this with trial and error. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to do a cv2.create track bar. Okay, create track bar. It recognizes that. That's good. And then what do we want to track in this track bar? We want to track hue lower. Okay. And then where do we want to put the track bar? What window do we want to put it in? We want to put it in track bars. Does that look good? Track bars, hue lower. And now I've got to kind of tell it where I want it. I've got to tell it what the initial value is. About 100 is mid-range. And then the hue goes from 0 to 180. Well, it has 180 slots. It goes from 0 to 179. And so this is going to have a range of 179. And then what do I do with that track bar? Nothing. Okay, you've got to call a function. I'm calling the function nothing. Why? Because it has to have a function. I don't need to do anything in the function, but it's got to have a function. Well, if I call it, I better define it. And so I better come up here and define what? Nothing. And why did that? Okay, that's a function, and that's why it italicized it. And nothing is going to take the parameter x, which I'm not going to send because I'm not really doing anything, but it's got to have something there, and then I'm just going to pass. Okay, what does the function nothing do? It does nothing. Why is it there? Because the track bar call needs to see a function here. So hopefully that makes sense. So I'm going to take this, and then I'm going to copy it, and then I'm going to paste it. So hue is kind of like the color tone, and if I'm going to have a lower hue value, I better also have a hue upper. So I'm going to make this one hue upper, like that. That looks good. And that I will put from about 116. So hue upper, the initial is higher than hue lower, and then similarly this will be 179. So let me explain this. This is the initial value. When you fire up the track bar will come to a value of 179, of 116, and then you give it a range. The track bar will go from 0 to 179, and we'll have an initial value of 116. Let's run this thing just to make sure that we don't have any problems. Okay, you see that? I've got a track bar, and guys, I'm going to have to turn that camera off or you're going to hate me so bad, because I know that you kind of hate that already. I know that you just barely tolerate that already. And so let's see here. I believe that I am in this window, and I am going to come over and I am going to turn that off. There you go. Okay, because we're going to need the whole screen for this thing. Okay, so you see now I can come in and I can move this, and I can set a range for hue. And I'll do that while I'm watching the pen in the window, and then I can dial in that color. It'll make sense as we go on if it doesn't. All right, so now I'm going to quit out of this, And now we are just going to sit. I hope I'm going to quit out of it. Yeah. Now we're just going to sit and we are going to make track bars. So I'm going to take these two, both of them, copy them, and then I'm going to paste them. And then I've got hue upper, hue lower. Well, hue, saturation, and value. I've done hue. I need to do sat lower, and I need to do sat upper. You see, I'm creating a box. I want an object that is between this hue and this hue, between this saturation and this saturation. Now, saturation does not go from 0 to 179. It goes 0 to 255 and 255, right? Because that's like a 8-bit, I mean, that's like a however many bit number, 5-bit number or something like that is 255. And then the 179 is an angle, so it goes like kind of halfway around a circle, 0 to 180. So a little bit different parameters there. And here I think we will give it a lower sat of 160. And then on the high end, we will just max it out at 255. Again, these are just the initial values when the track bar comes up. And then we're going to take this again, and we're going to paste it. And if I have hue upper and lower, saturation upper and lower, I need val upper and lower value. Right? This is hue, saturation, and value. This is just a way to specify colors, all right? And this one similarly is a number that the track bar needs to go to 255. It needs to go to 255, and it needs to, I'll give it an initial lower value of about 150 and an initial upper value of 255. So this is defining a box. And based on this color box, I'm going to create a mask, and that mask will only grab stuff that is within that color box. Now, we're going to have to slide those bars to tune it in on this color, but we've got to kind of start somewhere. All right, so that is pretty good. I think that is pretty good. Then we're going to come down and we're going to have a width of 720 and 480. I like that. A flip of 2. I've got this disease sounding font that we've got here, a font Hershey Simplex. And then I'm launching cam 1 and I'm launching cam 2. That looks good. And then I've got the launch strings. Then I launch the 2 cameras here. That looks good. I got to make sure, are we killing both of those cameras? We are not. That is cam 1 dot release down here. That's probably an error from last week. Cam 2 dot release. So I released the cameras there. Little oversight last week, so hopefully that didn't cause too much trouble. All right, so now we are going to come down into our while loop, and we are going to start watching the magic happen. So I grab frame 1 and I grab frame 2 from the 2 cameras, right? So I get frame 1 from cam 1, I get frame 2 from cam 2. Now what I want to do is I want to convert those 2 things to HSV. So I'm going to say HSV1, that's a new image, and that should be indented. HSV1 is going to be a new image, and it's going to be a conversion. CV2.CVT color. Okay, CVT color. And what do I want to convert? Frame 1. And how do I want to convert it? CV2 dot color, all uppercase, underscore BGR, and then 2 HSV. Okay, so you guys understand what we're doing here. We have an image, frame 1, and we're going to use CV2.convertColor. And how are we going to convert it? We're going to convert it to BGR to HSV. And now we're going to take this new image and we're going to put it into HSV1. Does that make sense? Alrighty then, let's come over here and let's do the same thing. Again, can you guess what we're going to do here? We better do that for frame 2. It's exactly the same. So now I have 2 new frames that are just like frame 1 and frame 2, only they're in a different color space because it's easier to track color in the HSV color space. All right, now we created those track bars. Okay, we created the track bars, but now we need to read the track bars. We need to read numbers from those track bars. So every time through the loop, I need to go out and I need to read those track bars. Well, what's one thing that I want from the track bar? I want hue low. And where am I going to read that? I'm going to read that from CV2 dot track or get. I'm going to get track bars position. Pay attention to the case. Uppercase T, uppercase P. Get track bar position. Make sure you get that in there right. And then which track bar am I going to read? I'm going to read hue lower. Okay. And then which track bar is it? It is track bars. So this is saying the window that I am reading from, and then this is saying the track bar, right? So I created the window track bars, and then I have the specific track bar hue lower. Okay, I'm going to read that track bar, and I'm going to put the number that is gotten from that. So as that slider changes, I will be changing ultimately the variable hue low. Okay, so let's run this and just see if this thing, if we have any errors. Okay, so you see, I've got the track bar. That's good. And then I can change the values by sliding these things. Okay, by sliding these things, I can change the values, and then in the while loop, I'm going to be reading those values in. Most excellent. I feel so good, man. I'm just still smoking from last week. Did I mention I went the whole lesson without the program crashing once? Not one error in the whole lesson. Now I want to do 2 in a row, right? I want to do 2 in a row. That's my new goal, 2 in a row. I want to go 2 lessons in a row without the program crashing. So the pressure is on who? The pressure is on me. Okay, so I did hue low. Well, if I did that, can you imagine what else I'm going to need to do? I will copy, Control C, and then I'm going to need to do hue up. So it's hue low for lower and up for upper. Hue low, hue up. Well, which track bar? It is going to be hue upper. And it's still in the window track bar. I like that. I like that a lot. All right. So if I did hue low and up, I'm going to copy both of those. And can you imagine what we're going to need to do now? We're going to need to make sure our tabs are right. But now I'm just going to read lower saturation, and I think I'll just call it LS for low saturation. And this one I'm going to call US for upper saturation. Okay, so now I've got hue low, I've got hue up, I've got LS for lower saturation, US for upper saturation. Okay, and now this, though, I got to be sure to read in the right spot. This is going to read from sat low, and this is going to read from sat high. Right? So I should have had sat low, and I should have sat high. And let's look up here and make sure that's what I have. Let's see, I said sat lower, and I said sat. I better make these the same. So it's going to be hue lower and hue upper, and then I'm just going to make it sat low, and I'm going to make it sat high. I'm sorry, I should have gotten these the same. So hue lower, hue upper, sat low, sat high, and then value, val low, and val high. You guys can do whatever you want, but just make sure they match. Okay, make sure they match. I got val low, val high. Let's make sure I did that down here. Let's see, I've got sat low, sat high. And up here I have sat low, sat high. Now I need val low and val high. Okay, so I'm going to come down here and I'm going to copy these. And this time what I am going to get is lower value LV, and I'm going to get upper value UV. Okay, so lower value, upper value, and then these were val low and val high. All right, do you guys see what I'm doing? I'm just reading into variables numbers from these named track bars, but I've just got to make sure what I call them here, I call them down below, and it's val low and val high. And so I'm reading val low and val high, and I'm putting that into LV and UV. All right, let's run this thing. Okay, look at that. It's running, and hopefully it is putting the things in the right place, but if it's not, we'll find out pretty soon. All right, so now I have got the numbers from my track bar inside of the while loop. So now I have to create this box. I have to create this box of a range of hues, a range of values, and a range of saturation so that I can box in this pen, that only the colors associated with this pen will be tracked. And so in order to do that, I've got to kind of create that box, which is going to be an array. Okay, and so I'm going to have the lower bound, LB is the lower bound of all of those numbers. Okay, the lower bound of all of those numbers, and I'm going to put it in an array, np.array, numpy.array. Let's make sure we imported numpy up here. Yes, we did. Okay, we already imported numpy. And so now I'm going to create the lower, I'm going to create an array of all the lower bounds. And so I would have low, I would have hue low, because I called it hue low, right? Hue low. And then I am going to have, what did I call the next one? LS for lower saturation. And then I called lower value. So I'm bringing in hue low, I'm bringing in low saturation and low value. So now just this lower bound array has all the low side of the numbers. Well, if I have that, if I have captured an array of the low side, what do you think I'm going to need? You guessed it, I'm going to need the upper. Okay, I'm going to need the upper bounds. So this array is the lower bounds and this array is the upper bound. And so here I would then have hue high, I would have upper saturation, and I would have upper values. These things are just matching the numbers that we put up here. And I see that I didn't call it hue high, I called it hue up. So I need to make this hue up like that. You can call these what you want, just make sure that they all match up. So now I'm creating a definition of the only color that I want are the colors that are between LB the lower bound and UB the upper bound. So that's defining that box that I want to keep. All right, I hope that makes sense. Well, if I've done that, I now need to create a mask. I need to mask that image, the first image and the second image, the frame 1 and frame 2. I need to mask them based on that color that I'm trying to get. So I will do that by creating a mask. I'm going to say FG mask 1 because I've got two images, right? I'm keeping them separate. Even though I'm going to stack them together, I'm keeping them separate for now. And so I've got to create a mask for one image and a mask for the other one. Really, in this case, since we only have one color we're looking, you could just do one mask, but because we're going to later have each camera look at a different color, I'm going to go ahead and create two different masks. So FG mask 1 is going to be equal to CV2 dot, what do I want to keep? Only the things that are in range. Okay, only the things that are in range. And what image do I want to look at? HSV1. And let's make sure that's what we called it up here, HSV1. So I'm working with HSV1, which is the HSV of frame 1. So HSV of 1. And then what do I want to keep? I want to keep the stuff that is between the LB and the UB. All right. So this mask is going to light up if the pixels in the image, it's going to light up where the pixels in the image are within the box that's between lower bound and upper bound. Everything else is going to be black, but if the image is between the lower bound array and the upper bound array, it's going to light up. Okay, so it's going to be a black and white image, either on or off. Either you're in the box or you're not in the box. Okay, well, if I have FG mask 1, I want to create a mask for the second image. Okay, so that is going to be FG mask 2. Okay, and the FG mask 2 is going to be based on the second image. But right now, since both of them are just tracking on the same color, they're both tracking on the same color, it's still the same LB and upper bound. Now you can imagine we're going to have to create a separate set of track bars and a separate upper and lower bound if we want to track two different colors at the same time. But we don't want to bite off more than we can chew all at the same time. Okay, so I think that looks pretty good. Let's just run it and make sure it doesn't crash. HSV1, FG mask 1. Let's see what happens. Did I run that thing? Oh my, please tell me that we didn't crash. I was on a roll. Guys, I was on a roll. What is this? Doesn't like line 59. Why does it not like line 59? That looks so good. Oh, yeah. It wants, I got to tell it, I got to send it an array. Okay, so I didn't put the little array bracket. So you see it's creating an array, so you've got to give it those brackets, right? You got to give it those brackets and tell it what is in that array. Okay. Okay, now that's actually an array. My pen just escaped. Jailbreak. All right, so now let's try to run it. All right, so my streak comes to an end. I made it 1.5 lessons. And let's see what it didn't like here. I have open, I have close, I have open, I have close. And hue low, hue up. LS. Ooh, this is upper saturation. Did you guys see that? Hopefully you were screaming at me. All right. Okay, so now I've got my track bars and I've got my image and I've kind of defined a box with mask. Now I'm ready to start doing something with that mask. Okay, I'm ready to start doing something with that mask. And I think one of the first things that I will do with that mask, let's see here. I'm just going to show one of the masks, and since both masks are, I'm just going to show one mask, I think, just so if it's in that camera view, then I can dial in my parameters. And so really all I need to do is just show one mask. And so I will do a cv2.im show. And what do I want to show? I want to show FG mask 1, comma FG mask. Okay, that's the name of the window, FG mask 1. And then what do I want to show? I want to show FG mask 1, like that. So that should show it, and then I'll be good and go ahead and move it to cv2.move window. And what do I want to move? I want to move FG mask 1. And where do I want to move it? I want to move it to 0, 0. So it'll be up in the corner. Remember, I brought that other one down. And so I did not close that in the right spot. There, that should work. And so now I think I should actually be able to start dialing in that blue color. So let's try that. Run Python file in terminal. I guess I got to figure out which is camera 1 and which is camera 2. Okay, so here's our blank mask up here. And if I put this pin in the picture, it looks like I am looking at this second camera. Okay. And so what I need to do now is I need to dial in until I'm grabbing that whole pin cap. I'm pretty close, but I need to go a little bit wider range for blue, I think. And then it looks like I probably need to lower the value. Okay, now it's coming in very, very nicely. Lower this a little bit. Okay, so you see now how it is finding that pin. It ignores everything except the pin cap. Shazam! Man, we are on a roll. And we're just going to pretend that those two little errors didn't occur. And we're going to say that we're on a roll here. 2 lessons without any real, errors is what we're going to say. Any real errors. There was kind of like a little something that we won't talk about. Okay, so let's quit there. We have kind of dialed in. So we've been able to find the pin. All right, now we just got to do a little more magic. Okay, we've got to do a little bit more magic. So we've shown that. What we need to do now is, it's real simple. It's like either black or white. And everything's black, and then we got this white blob that is the thing we wanted. Now we need to get our contour, which is basically go out, and we want to draw a box around that. So there is something that will go out and find those contours. Okay, the contour is not looking at the image, it's looking at the mask, and then it's telling you where you have something in the mask. So it's kind of a real simple, dumb thing, like it's a black image. Tell me the dimensions around which I've got that white blob. All right, and that is our friend contours. And so I'm going to do a contours, C-O-N-T-O-U-R-S, contours 1. And the contours command returns 2 parameters. We just want the first one, which is the array of contours. And the second one we just throw away. So we will put it an underscore because we don't need it. And that is going to be equal to CV2. And the command is find contours. Do you see that? Find contours. Make sure you get your case right. All right. And then where do I want to look for my contours? In FG mask 1. Okay, and now I've got to tell it a few things of how to do it. All right, I've got to give it some parameters. CV2.retr retrieve external Okay, can you guys see that? Let me hit a comma there. So you guys go back and look at my earlier nano lessons. I can't explain all these things, but this is just the way in which it's going to grab the contours. And what works is retrieve external, and that case is not correct. That should be EXT. You see, all uppercase. And now I got to tell it how to do the approximation. So I'm going to do CV2 dot. I'm going to do chain, and then I'm going to do underscore approximation, APPROX. Make sure you get that. And then I'm going to do the simple. Okay. So I'm going to do CV2 dot retrieve underscore external and CV2 dot chain approx simple. All right, make sure you get that right. And you can go over to the OpenCV and look at the docs if you want to understand more about what those things do. But just understand for what we're doing, these simple contours, those two things will work. Well, if I want to find the contours in the first window, what am I also going to need to do for that second image, right? Do you remember that we have a second image? Okay, and so I'm going to paste. I'm going to copy, and now I'm going to paste, and now I'm going to tab. And so I need a second set of contours, and those are going to be based not on mask 1, but on mask 2. So now I have one set of contours from frame 1, which became HSV1, which became FG mask 1, and then frame 2, which became HSV2, which became FG mask 2. So now I've got my two set of contours. Okay, so what I will need to do now is I'm not going to do this yet. Okay, I'm not going to do the second one yet. Let's just get the first one working. Okay, baby steps, right? Baby steps. Let's get the first one working. So what that does is it looks at the image and it finds all the blobs that are within that color box. And so imagine it might find the pen, or let's say if my eyes are blue, it might find the pen and it might grab onto my eye because my eye is blue. Well, what I want to do is, and there's always little bits and dabs of blue. Well, what I want to do is I want to keep the biggest one because I know the biggest one's going to be a pen. Well, it returns these contours to you in random order, so we're going to need to sort them. We're going to need to put them in order from the, and normally it sorts small to big, so we're going to have to reverse the sort to do big to small. And so I will show you how to sort. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and say contours 1 still, and it's going to be equal to, I'm going to sort. So I'm going to say sorted. So I'm going to sort contours 1 into a new contours 1, which is going to be ordered according to the size of the contour. And so what I need to do is, what am I going to sort? I'm going to sort contours 1. Right, I'm going to sort contours 1. And now this is just a little way to kind of write a function within one line of code. And what you do is you just say key is equal to lambda. Okay, and when I do that, that's creating a function in one line. And then I'm going to take a variable x that I just make up, and I am going to sort on CV2 dot contour area of x. And so this is just a convenient way to write a function in one line of code. So it's just going to zip through there. Lambda is going to zip through there, and it's going to create these x's, and then the x is going to be the contour area, and then it's going to sort it based on x. All right, we are almost there, but the one other thing I need to do is I need to say reverse equal true, right? Because I don't want to go lowest to highest. I got to reverse it, which will make it highest to lowest. The default is to sort things low to high, and I want to sort things high to low. So what this means now is contour, the first array in the array of arrays contours, the first array is going to be the biggest one. It's going to kind of just be the points that would draw a circle around this. Okay, but it's going to put the biggest one first. So now all I've got to do is kind of just look at the biggest one, and that should be I should just look at the first one, and that should be the right one. Okay, so let's see here. Let's run it and just make sure it doesn't crash. That was kind of a hairy line of code, wasn't it? Okay, that's good. And we're actually kind of seeing something there. And we should actually now not just have that black and white, but we should have the contour. We should have the points that would sort of make a circle around that. And so probably the best thing to do now is to just go in and draw that box. Now you got to remember that you might have lots of contours. Now here there was just one, but there could be more than one. So let me just kind of show you that. Okay, so do you see in the mask now, you're not just seeing the tip of the pen, you're also seeing some of this blue here. So you would have more than one contour, but what you want is you just want to look at and deal with the biggest one. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to step through the contours. So I'm going to say for CNT is like abbreviated contour in contours 1, and then what do I want to do? I want to find the area of the contour. Area is equal to CV2 dot contour area, right? And I want to find the contour area of CNT. That's the present contour, and right, it's like this list of points that would circle your object of interest, and you want to know kind of like what the area of that is. So now I've got the area, and that's good. All right, then I'll say if area is greater than or equal to 100, because I just don't want, like, let's say there's no pen in there and there's just a couple of random bits of blue. I don't want to start trying to track on that. It's got to count. It's got to be at least 100 pixels, which would be like 10 pixels by 10 pixels. So if the area is greater than or equal to 100, what do I want to do? I want to put a rectangle around it. CV2 dot, or wait a minute, I got to get where it is. Okay, and so to get where it is, I am going to need to know where the X and the Y. Okay, so like imagine I'm going to put a box around it. I need to know the corner XY, and then I need to know its width and its height. So I got to grab that. So I got to get XY, comma W, comma H. And where am I going to get that? This handy command called CV2 dot bounding rect for bounding rectangle. And what do I want to look at? I want to look at the contour CNT, which is the present one as I am stepping through there. So at this point, I have like the contours themselves are just an array of points, like point, trying to draw the outline. Well, that's more detail than I need. I'm just saying, hey, give me the rectangle around it, not every single point. And I get that with bounding rectangle, all right? And so now I know the X and Y position of the upper left, and I know the width and height. What can I do? I can now draw a rectangle around it with CV2 dot rectangle command. Remember our friend rectangle? Okay. What do I want to draw a rectangle around? Frame 1. Okay. And why frame 1? Because I was just doing that HSV nonsense to find where it was. Now I know where it is. Now I got to go back and I got to put the rectangle on the real image, not all this other stuff. I got to go back to the original image because that's what we're going to look at. So that would be the original one is frame 1. Okay. And then where do I want to put the rectangle? Well, I want to start at x comma y. All right. And then where do I want to end the rectangle? Well, x plus w, right? And y plus height. So you see I've kind of given it the two corners of the rectangle now. Okay. I got to give it a color. Let's go 0, 255, 255. It'll be a red box since we're looking at a blue pen. And then how thick do we want it? We want it to be 3. All right. This is so scary. This is so scary. Okay, and since we really just want to look at the biggest one, we don't want it to go in and start drawing boxes around all the smaller ones. We just want the big one. Okay, so what I'm going to do is at the point that I'm here, if I get to this point, I'm just going to break out of that for loop because it's like hit and run, man. I'm going to grab the biggest one, box it, and I'm going to move on. So I'm going to break here. All right, so now I'm going to right mouse click and I am going to run Python file in terminal. All right, men and women, if there's any women out there. Now that's kind of strange. I would say we have some sort of strange error here. We have got a strange yellow box that is not doing at all what we were expecting. So why is that not working? I think I know why it is not working. That put it on frame 1. What is this nonsense? Okay, so it put it on frame 1. You see, it's a confusion of the frame 1 versus the stacked image, I do believe. But let me see, I've got cv2.rectangle. I'm doing the rectangle based on frame 1. I'm doing the rectangle based on frame 1. And then I'm giving it x and y. It goes xy width height, xy width height, x plus the width, y plus the height, and then I break. Okay. And then let's see down here. Then I create the frame 3, and the frame 3 is frame 1 and frame 2. And then I show frame 3. I am a little perplexed. Do you guys see where my error is? Can you see where my error is? Frame 1, frame 2. Hue lower, hue upper. All that looks good. We know that works. FG mask 1 is based on HSV1. HSV1 is based on frame 1, HSV2, frame 2. Sometimes when you copy and paste, you leave something that you should change. So FG mask 1 is HSV1, FG mask 2 is HSV2, and then I'm showing FG mask 1. That's good. And then I'm creating the contours. I'm creating the contours based on FG mask 1. And then I am sorting the contours based on contour 1. That looks right. Area, I'm only doing if the area is greater than . I think I'm going to just, for good measure, I'm going to move this where before I even get in that loop and before I even go in the if statement, I'm going to grab it out here. Because I want to grab that whether I go in the if statement or not. So I'm going to grab it up here, and then it's x plus the width, y plus the height. I got xy and I got width height. I got xy, I got width height. Bounding rectangle of cont in contours. Go to frame 1, and then frame 2 is the stack of frame 1 and frame 2. I mean, frame 3 is the stack of frame 1 and frame 2. This sure looks right, man. This looks so right. But I had that crazy little yellow box that is just not going to go in the right spot for me. You know what? I think for some reason these two things are reversed. And okay, look at this, guys. You see this right here is like where it should be on the second one. Do you see? It's like it's trying to put it here, but then it's over there. So it's kind of like frame 1 and frame 2 are confused. It's finding it, but it's putting it on the wrong one. Now, why would that be? Perhaps when we stack them, we should stack them in the other order. And then the right one would line up with the right one. Is that crazy? Am I going insane? But you see, look, it's reversed again now. It's like you can't win. Okay. So we've got a fundamental error in here somewhere. So let's get rid of that switching things. Let's put it back. Frame 1 and frame 2. I'm looking at contours 1. Is contours 1 sorted? Contours 1 is FG mask 1. Oh man, here it is. Boom. Look at this. I didn't change this to FG mask 2, so FG mask 1 became associated with the second picture. Did you guys catch that? That was a nasty little problem. All right, guys, let's see. My perfect streak is definitely over at this point. My perfect streak is definitely over at this point. Let's see if we can dial this thing in now. So I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to give it a little more here. I'm going to bring this down. What did I break, man? Ah, there it is. Okay, I needed a lower low value. Got to just very carefully tweak that in. That looks pretty darn good there. I'm going to move this on over here. Okay, so now let's pull it out. Okay, so the good news is we've just done the first image and it is tracking it. Okay, it is tracking it. It's not tracking it in the second image because we haven't done that yet, but that is going to be real easy. Boom, man, we are rolling here. We're going to have this done in no time. So what we did with contours 1, we just now need to do that with contours 2, right? So I'm going to do copy. So I processed that first frame. Now I got to process frame 2. And so I'll come in here and I'm going to paste what we did for the first one. Only this time what I'm going to have is I am going to have contours 2 is going to be looking at FG mask 2. And then contours 2 is going to be contours 2 sorted. And then for CNT in contours 2. And then I'm going to do this. And then I'm going to come down here and I've got to put it on frame 2. Could it really be that easy? Let's see. Don't get too excited, ladies and gentlemen. Don't get too excited. I'm getting excited. Stay calm. Easy, man. Easy. Okay. Easy. Easy. Let's get that dialed in. Okay, let's look at this. Okay, I'm gonna, it's unfair to try to distinguish between this blue and that blue, so I'm just gonna kind of, let's just do this. Okay, now, I'm trying to get it in both of them. All right, now we can dial it in better. I can bring that down. Boom, look at that. We are tracking in both. Okay, it's still that one camera was trying to find this here, right? If I come too far back, it then finds this other pin. Okay, so I'll hide that. And then let's look. Look at that. Shazam. Man, we are tracking that thing. Okay, so now if we can track it, with a box, we can point the cameras at it. But I got to kind of think there's two different... Oh, man, I am so excited about this. This is just so darn exciting. Okay, so now there's a couple of different directions that we can go with this. We can go turn the cameras on and track, or we can turn the servos on and we can track this. Or we could have one camera track a blue pin and the other camera track a red pin. I want to go turn the servos on. So your homework for next week is to have both cameras track this blue pin by keeping it in the middle of the screen. So both of them will be tracking. But you've got to kind of independently control them. You've got to have camera 1 working with servos 1 and camera 2 working with servos 2. You've got to kind of independently do it, right? You can't just do it at the same time. You've got to control all 4 of the servos, all right? And 2 of them are associated with one camera, 2 of them are associated with the other camera, but I want both cameras pointed at this one blue pin. Then following that, what we will do in the following lesson, we will have one camera track a blue pin and we'll have the other camera track a red pin. Okay, man, this has been fun. I am really having fun with this. Are you guys having as much fun with this as I am? I hope you are. This is really, really, really slick. So, homework for next week is to turn those servos on and have them move with the pin, keeping the pin in the center of the image. This has been a lot of fun, and you guys think about giving me a thumbs up. I'm working hard on these videos, and when you give me a thumbs up, it is a big encouragement to me. You guys look me up on Twitter. I'm Paul J. McWhorter on Twitter. You can follow me there if you want to kind of stay up on what I'm doing, some of the stuff away from these videos. If you want to keep up, look me up on Facebook, Paul, and then space and Anna. That's Paul and Anna McWhorter. You can follow me on Facebook. Love to get a friend request from you and get hooked up that way. Okay, this is Paul McWhorter from TopTechBoy.com. I will talk to you guys later.